Hey folks, AJ the CEO here, and if you've been on my channel for any period of time, you know we help modernize media ministries from churches who have stuff or churches that don't have anything and they're a complete blank slate. And we'll do video, audio, digital walls, networking, computers, we do the whole shebang. But I want to focus on our networking because I've had a lot of y'all asking me about this question, and I want to kind of simplify and show you that networking is not as difficult as you may think, especially if you get the right product. I used to jimmy rig a whole bunch of networking equipment, Netgear routers, switches all over the place, and it would be whatever device I got that was at the cheapest price. I came across the Unifi line from Ubiquiti, I want to say 10 years ago. Yeah, about more than 10 years ago. And it just simplified and changed my whole mindset on networking. It made it simple to where now everything is from the Ubiquiti Unifi line. It just makes everything unified. Haha, the name. But anyway, but I know when I show those videos, I do have a lot of churches that are like, they want that, but it seems kind of outside their price range. So thankfully, Ubiquiti has come out with their Ultra line. We've reviewed a bunch of their products, and I actually got some that just came in today because we're doing a new install down in Oxford, North Carolina for First Baptist Church, and they're a blank slate. They have Wi-Fi, but it's with the router that came with their internet in a back office somewhere, so the Wi-Fi can't reach the sanctuary, it can't reach downstairs, and we just need to build out the whole thing. And with what we do, it needs to be a wired connection to have a stable, reliable internet and streaming experience. So one of the things I will say with the Unifi line is you don't have to start with everything. The way the main controller works with the Unifi, it is smart. You can just start with just something like this, and then you want to add an access point, you can add that. You can add another one. You can add a camera. That is how I built out my stuff. I started with the Unifi Cloud Key back in the day, and then it's grown to where I've just added and added and added. And the brain of the Unifi system is intelligent. It knows what it's doing. Oh, I see something new. Let's add it together. So if you're looking to expand and get into the Unifi line, don't let anybody tell you that you have to buy everything from the beginning. You don't have to do that. It's like the same way people get intimidated thinking that, oh, it's going to cost us $1,000 to get started. No, you don't. I'll just tell you like this. This router that we're starting with at their church is $129. This access point is going to be inside the sanctuary to give a much stronger signal. And then actually I need to order another one because we're going to put one downstairs for the fellowship hall. These are going for ranging from $109 to $130. So at $130 for the router and modem, well, not the modem, excuse me, the router, this costs about the same thing as a good mid-tier type of router that you would get at a Target, Walmart, Best Buy, Amazon, something like that. But you get way more bells and whistles with this thing, and it's way more powerful, gives you way more flexibility. So after me blabbing all this time, I'm just going to go through and set up this entire thing because this is for a church that has nothing. And I want to walk you through and kind of guide you through the whole process and just show you that it's not something to really be intimidated by. You can look at any of my reference videos. I will have a link down below. I do not have any affiliates with Ubiquiti. The links are going to go directly to what it's going to cost. I would personally, though, say don't buy this stuff from Amazon because it's marked up. Get it directly from store.ui.com, and you don't have to worry about the prices getting jacked up and stuff like that. And they actually got some Black Friday deals going on right now because it's the 27th of November of 2024. All right, so let's first start with the modem here. Let's go ahead and open this up. And like I said, this is going to be from ground zero, setting everything up all over again. And my apologies, I keep looking over to make sure my audio is being recorded because this is about the 5th time I've tried to record this because stuff is happening. All right, so let's punch in a little bit here so you can see what comes in here. And really small, not anything super, super humongous. About the same size as like a modem, or excuse me, I keep saying modem, but a router that you will see. I keep saying modem because I have one of the UDM Pro, and it acts as a modem as well too. I have fiber, so it just goes directly in. So I don't need a modem. So that's why I keep mistakenly calling it a modem. All right. So we got it right here. Got this paper out of here. What else comes in here? Just a placeholder. We got a power cable. We got a Ethernet cable, and we got some little soft little feet that you can put on the bottom of this in these corners here. Probably not going to use that. We got a little quick start guide inside of here, and talked about the FCC stuff and all those things like that. But that's pretty much it. All right. So let's go ahead and close this up. Put everything back in here. Because as I said, I'm setting, and most of the time when I do this, I set these up at home so that when I get to the church, it makes it, I really don't have to do anything. I just plug it in, all the cameras, everything that I set up is already working. So it's really great. So on the back of this, let's punch in a little bit here. So in the back of this, we have a USB-C for our connections, for giving it power. We have 4 ports. This is a switch that's built in, so you can connect 4 things directly. So for me, I'm going to be connecting the computer that we're installing here. The access point is going to go into one of these, and I still have 2 other connections. Figuring out what we might do. One of these is actually, now that I think about it, the other one is going to go feed the access point that's going to be downstairs in the fellowship hall. And then we have 1 extra. Once we go after this, once we've used up all of these, we might have to add a switch. That's where we would add on to this. We would add a Unifi switch to this, and then, especially the Unifi one, because then it can just talk to each other. But we'll show you all of that stuff. All right. And that's really all it is. And in the front, you got a tiny little LED screen to show you what's going on with it. Does it have internet? Does it have the speed? Little information. Not really that serious, but that's mainly it. All right. So let's go ahead and get a power cable here. I have my laptop set up beside here. Now you have to be careful how you set this stuff up, and I'm not trying to go super detailed into our networking stuff, because I mean, you can have a whole class. I had networking classes in college. We're not trying to do that right now. But when you set one of these up, your router is going to hand out IP addresses. This is a range of addresses that every device has on your network so that they're addressable. You can't have, just like our houses don't have the same address. Everyone has one that is unique. So when you get your modem from your ISP, they have a IP address that's ranged in their device. The same way that you have in your modem, it does the same thing. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to find my power plug up under the table. All right, so I can get it plugged in. So you get an IP address from your modem. Now, just like we said, the same house can't have, 2 houses can't have the same address. That is the same concern when you do something like this. This is one of the concerns that I need to be aware of when we install this at the church. I think I might have said 31st Street. I'm sorry, it's First Baptist Church. 31st Street is installed, that I did install one of these at. So that's why I'm confusing these. But you need to make sure when you plug this in that you don't get the same conflict. So if your modem is coming back from your ISP, they might hand out an IP address of like 192.168.0.1, ranging from .1 all the way up to 254. So all of those are addresses that can be assigned to devices that plug into your modem. Most people are never going to use that many, but it just gives you that range. Now, if this is plugged in and it is also set at 192.168.0.1, those devices are going to conflict. So we need to make sure that whatever we plug this in, the modem that the ISP gave the church, that they're on completely different IP address ranges so that they don't conflict with each other. You'll start having some wonky stuff happen if this is the same address as another one. But the Unifi stuff is kind of intelligent. It will notice that, and it will, for the most time, change it. So I am plugging into a Unifi stuff right now. So here, you see this one has a little globe here. This is signified as this is where your main internet connection is going to come in. So this is what I'm going to plug into the line coming from the modem that the ISP has. So let's plug that in right there. Now for setting this up, you can do it over your phone. They've made a bunch of updates to where it makes it easy to do this with your phone, but I'm gonna do this old fashioned so that y'all can see it. I have this cable going into my laptop right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and plug that in. It doesn't matter which port you're plugged into, but I want to make sure I'm on the network and I'm separate from what's going on. So if we punch in real quick, you'll see it goes through some information here if I can get it in focus. Come on. All right, so it flipped upside down because I guess it tells the orientation, which I think is interesting. All right, so I don't know if you can see that. See, it assigned my setup as 192.168.1.1 because my stuff here is 192.168.0.1. So it already could tell, wait a minute, I need to change because what I'm plugging into is the same thing. So it intelligently changed. All right, so we got all of that. Let's go ahead and cut over to my computer screen so we can actually see what's going on. So first, we need to see, are we connected? Right now I am, let me turn my Wi-Fi off so I make sure that I am only connected to this device. All right, so I am connected, but it says I have no internet, which is perfectly fine. That's what I wanted to do. Now, on this panel, it tells me the IP address to get to, and it actually says that the IP address is 192.168.1.1. That's what it says for me to connect to. So I'll go ahead and put that in. We're getting a warning here. Let's go full screen to make this a little bit easier. And we're just gonna continue. And look, we're at the welcome screen of setting everything up. All right, we're gonna give this a name, the Unifi Cloud Gateway Ultra. And we're gonna call this First Street Baptist Church, UCG. Not that it really matters, I manage these, so the naming is just for me. You can call it whatever you want to. I name it that way so I can tell them apart from which ones, because there's a bunch of First Streets, Second Streets, 31st Streets that I've installed. All right, now you're gonna be asked to give an account to link into this. I have a Unifi account. If you haven't, this is your first time setting this up, you just set this. This is gonna be the super admin over this account. And if you set up multiple ones, they can all be linked into this. That's how I can access any of these from anywhere. So after I've installed this church, if they have an issue, I don't have to drive to the church. I can remote in and manage this. So let me go ahead and log in real quick. Now, Ubiquity has done an update, so two-factor authentication is required for when you set up your account. So you will need to turn this on in some way, shape, or form. All right, I got mine in here and it's pulling up my account. And it's gonna say, I want to continue without a backup because this is a brand new instance. All right, so now that we're connected, it is running a speed test. And it's intelligently setting the ups and downs, the speeds, the uploads and download speeds. It's configuring this for your network to get the most out of it, which again is something that I like. You can set this, and I think it does it weekly, or you can even do it nightly, that it will always test to show what speed you're getting, and it will notify you if it notices, hey, this is the speed you've been getting, then all of a sudden it drops. This is why I love this system for churches. So when sometimes people are saying, oh, we're having an internet outage, we can actually look here and see, is it something internal that's causing the issue, or is it something external? Because it will tell you, hey, we're seeing some high latency or some slowdown in your internet. And you can, it just gives you some more information to arm yourself. So we got this set. I'm gonna be doing this test again, obviously, because I'm here, I'm not at the church. So we can kick this test off again and it will change those settings again. All right, we just go to next. It is setting up everything. And give it a minute. And while it's doing that, let me go ahead and take you over to the access point, because this does not have any Wi-Fi. And the beauty of this is now you can separate these and you can have as many, well, this one can actually support up to, I think, 300 of these. And this is gonna allow us to install this access point in the ceiling, in the fellowship hall, in the administration wing, inside the sanctuary. So now this is not a booster. It is like you've ripped the Wi-Fi out of here, cloned it, and put it in multiple locations. That's why it gives you so much of a better signal, because it's like you have Wi-Fi in the other areas. This is the same thing that you'll see in companies, hotels, everything. And I have it the same way for each floor inside of my house. I have one that makes it easier for access and complete coverage. So let's go ahead and open this up, and we're gonna pair this here with this. So once we open this up inside of here, we're gonna have some mounting tools. And we have the access point. Now, I made a mistake in this because of the one that I ordered. This access point requires PoE, or power over Ethernet. In other words, the Ethernet cable that's connected to it is gonna send data and power to it. This one does not come with an adapter. You can buy the adapter separately, or there are other ones that specifically will say that include a power adapter. I know the reason why I bought this, because I have about like 20 of these extra adapters like left over from installs. So that's what I'm gonna grab real quick. Oh, but let me grab that after I finish showing you everything else. We got a placeholder so that we can mark the holes when we need to mount this in the ceiling or the wall. If this is a drop ceiling, we got a metal plate that will be on the other side of a drop ceiling, which it is gonna be downstairs. This will go on the top of the tile. This goes in the viewable area, it screws into there. This locks into place. And then we keep this flat side. Actually, it should have been like this. We put this flat side so that the cable can come through and plug into the device. So if we line it up like this, this doesn't block the cable coming in through. So that's what we're gonna do with this. Let me put all this stuff in place. And if you give me half a second, I'm gonna get an adapter, and then we're gonna plug everything up, and then we're gonna adopt all this stuff into our new Cloud Gateway Ultra. All right, now see, I have a bunch of these adapters, but again, not all of them work. This is a 24 volt that goes with their older stuff. This is the one that will work with this, this access point. Be mindful of the standards of PoE, and the text is super, super tiny, but it will tell you which one. And honestly, when you buy this, it also has like a accessories that you can go through, and it'll tell you the exact adapter that you can get for that. The other way around this is if we added a switch, we could get a PoE switch that will send power to this automatically, and we don't need to do that. So if we ever needed to add more stuff, we probably would put a PoE switch, and then we don't have to worry about these adapters. But for right now, I need an adapter. All right, so we got this plugged in here. I'm gonna use this short cable that came with here to bridge. So the way this PoE is, you're gonna have a connection, and if I can zoom out so you can actually see it. With this PoE adapter, one line is red. This is what you're gonna connect, and it will go directly and send power to the device. This is gonna give you, the other connection is for you connected to how it's getting internet. So the white cable that I just connected on the back of our Ultra here, that is gonna go into here. That's gonna give it network access. The next cable that we plug in is now gonna provide power with, it's gonna join power to the internet connection that's gonna be going to our access point. And we're gonna plug it in. Let me zoom out a little bit more. and we're going to plug it in right here. So I'm only going to plug it in for a second because I want to show you the whole adoption process inside of the app once we get into it. We want to make sure we know it's working. And I don't know if you can see it, it's lighting up. So we got the right adapter and it's sending the right power. You don't want to put the wrong PoE adapter on it because you can actually damage it. So that's why I say go through their website. It's going to give you way more detail and the exact stuff you need compared to you going to like Amazon or something like that because somebody's just trying to sell it to you. All right, now let's go back over here to our computer. Let's go to our desktop. The dashboard, excuse me. All right, it's going to ask us to sign in again, and we're going to put in our credentials of the account that you made. It's going to ask for your authentication again, and boom, we are here. Now, the first thing you'll see, it actually detected the device. So all I have to do is click add, but we're gonna let it wait for a little bit. Here on our home screen, we're gonna give access to a bunch of stuff of our apps and everything like this, because it doesn't look like this one can only run the networking app. It can't run any of the other programs like its voice over IP, the security cameras, none of that stuff. This is the simplified version. If you wanted to run any of those other things, you need to get maybe I think the max version of this allows you to run security cameras and stuff like that, but this is just network. So right now, we're getting the internet access. It says it needs to update. So we're going to kick off an update right now, but while that's doing, we'll go through everything else. In here, you can add different admins in here if you wanted to. Right now, most of the time, I add myself as an admin because once this is set up, for the most part, you really don't want anybody else touching this unless they know what they're doing. Then that's when I'll add somebody else as an admin, but I maintain being the super admin because I sell that and tell that to my clients so that if anything happens, if I'm still super admin, I don't have to actually come on site. I can still fix it remotely. If I get removed and I have to come on site, that's obviously gonna be more, for repair, obviously. Like if you call a plumber and they can tell you over the phone how to fix your issue, it's significantly cheaper than you calling a plumber and they got to come out to your house and make a 24-hour emergency call. So that's why I keep my account in here. But you can add other users and different things to that if somebody needs to manage it. But since this is just networking, consider it just as serious as putting in how many people do you give the admin password to your router. Under here, if we added devices, they will be listed here, which we're going to be doing here in a second. You have your console settings. You can set your location and all this other fun stuff. When do you want it to go into night mode where it will turn off the screen and all this other stuff? So there's a bunch of features in here. A lot of that stuff really isn't that important. You can just leave it alone. You can also put a map here if you wanted to load floor plans into this thing and show you where all this other stuff is. You could do that as well too if you really wanted to be nerdy about it. But we're just going to set this. This is a set it and forget it type of thing. All right. We got our about, and it gives us information about all our details and all this other stuff like that. So it's showing the IP address that this device is getting. So like from my modem or your ISP that you plug it in, that's what address is going to be. But then this is your internal address. As you can see, they're not the same. 192.168.0 dot, and then the internal is 192.168.1 dot. All right. All right, so just like that, our stuff is updated. You can set when do you want it to do updates. Me personally, they have service on Sunday, so I'm not trying to do any updates then. I would let it run on Mondays at 3 a.m. weekly. You can set it weekly or daily. Weekly, I think, is fine for me. All right. So now let's go inside the networking, or we can click on this icon, either one. And you have your whole report. Now I'm going to switch this out to a black theme so it makes it a lot easier to read here. So as you can see already, it's giving me a whole lot of information. It's picking up who my ISP is. It's showing the current activity, how much data I've used. In this amount of time of me turning this on, we've used 3.3 gigs, 3.03 gigs of data. This is where you can kick off that speed test again if you want to, and it'll recalculate everything. This is the same thing we're going to do once we get down to the church. I don't need to do that right now. All right, so still talking about setting everything up. So now we have our topology. This will show how everything is connected. So if we look in here, you can see that my computer is directly connected to it, and we have a U6 access point plus plugged in. As more and more stuff is installed, it will build this out so you have a visual representation of how stuff is connected. All right, let's go to our Unifi device, and there it is. There's our network access point. All we have to do is click the adopt. It is adopting. If I cut over here, it changed color to blue because it is now talking. Once it has a solid color, it's going to be doing updates, keep it up standard, and then it's going to be linked. So it's blinking. So now it's doing its handshake to get all this other stuff in place. And then once it's done, see it shut off because it's doing a fix. And we'll come back to that because it's going to do its thing, but we can still do what we need to do. Now, when I normally set this stuff up, I segment out who's using this equipment. So for example, this is going to be set up primarily so that the media has unrestricted access. It has the bulk of the upload and download speeds so that it can have a stable live stream. All right. So that's the beauty of this, but we got the technology, so we can also offer Wi-Fi to congregants that come into the church, but we want to make sure that they don't use up everything, so it will bottleneck the media who needs the internet and the upload so that we can live stream. So like say your upload speed was only 25 megabytes a second. That's what your upload speed is. But if somebody's there on the Wi-Fi on their phone and they're live streaming from the phone and they get there before you, they may use up all that upload speed and you'll have a horrible experience. And any of your viewers will have the issue. This is why I like the Unifi stuff, because we can segment and make zones for everybody. Just like other modems, you can set a guest account and all this other stuff. We're going to do all of that. So right now, this is still getting ready. So we're going to come down here to our settings, and we're going to go to networks. So by default, this is our default network. This is what everybody plugs into. That's the IP address range that everybody is going to get. But we want to segment this stuff so that the default is going to be for staff media, the people who need to use it reliably and don't have any hindrances in any way, shape, or form. But we're going to make a new network for guests. So we're going to call this, I guess I could just call it guests, to be quite honest. And then as you see, it's changing the range of what the IP address range is going to be handed out to. So I'm actually going to change this to something a little bit different. I'm going to use 10.10.10 as my range. This is another internal private IP address. Normally it's 192.168.172. I forgot the last part. And then it's 10 dot something in their range. So we just want to make sure that they're nowhere close to each other. I'll put up a list and a link down below that will tell you the exact IP addresses that you can pick. The first two numbers, and then you can change the other ones to whatever you feel like you want to. So now this is showing that we have 249 addressable devices that can be connected to the guest network. All right. Everything else you can kind of leave if you want to, but I'm going to check off manual because I want to make some more changes inside of this. I want to set this as a guest network. So what does that mean? Isolates this network from other virtual networks not defined as guest using firewall rules. So in other words, the device is also going to separate both of them so that if somebody is on this network and they want to print to the staff printers, they can't do it. The device is physically blocking it, and the IP addresses ranges are completely different. They're like in a completely different time zone. They can't talk to each other like that. That's why I like to do this. And if you have multiple people, say somebody's in the guest network and somebody's trying to do something nefarious, they can't touch anybody else's stuff on your network. So if, say you got some kid that has their laptop and somebody else wants to hack into the other one, can't do that, all right? And then we also can set this as isolate the networks from all others. I kind of like doing both. But actually, let me take that back. I guess I can't, because now you used to be able to do it, but now it's saying if I turn this on, it's going to disable the guest. So I think guest is already doing isolation anyway. So we're good to go. Outside of that, everything is straight. So now we have 2 networks set up. Now, let's set up some Wi-Fi. Now that we have an access point, we need to establish our own Wi-Fi that people are going to connect to. So what I'm going to do this is First Street Baptist Church, and I will call that secure. This is what I'm going to give for the staff and everybody else. You can set yourself a good password here. And I know some people are dead set on wanting to have a very simple password. No, make it complicated. It just makes it a lot easier for you. All right, so we set our password. Now, what is this Wi-Fi going to be attached to? This Wi-Fi is going to be attached to our default network, which is for staff. This is the Wi-Fi that people are going to connect to on their phones, on their tablets, if they need to be connecting to anything like the media computers, the printers, anything like that, that only staff will need to be connected to. So let's go ahead and add that Wi-Fi. Now, the beauty of the Unifi stuff, you can have multiple. You can have up to 7 of these. So like here at my house, I have my default. I have guest. I have smart devices. I have my studio equipment. And then I have another network that has my daughter connects to that has more security so that she's not going out to anything and different websites that she's not supposed to go to. So you could do that as well too. But we're going to make it simple for right now. We're going to make another Wi-Fi, and this is going to be First Street Baptist Church, and we're just going to call it wireless. So this is going to be for everybody else, or you could just keep it like that. You can call it whatever you want to. And then let's set a password for this. And what network do we want this to be tied to? We want this to be tied to our guests so that nobody else, when they get onto this one, it's going to be linked in that IP address range of 10.10.10. Whatever is going to be assigned to each device if they connect through the Wi-Fi on that SSID Wi-Fi. All right, hope that makes sense. All this other stuff we don't really need to change because our network is propagating those settings to everything. So we just add that, and just like that, we have 2 networks. So let's see, if I turn on my Wi-Fi right now, we should see both of them now. So as you can see, these are a couple of mine. That's Camelot, there's Guest, there's Smart. Those are the ones I was talking about. And boom, there they go. They just showed up. So these are my 2 Wi-Fi SSIDs that are showing up from this access point that's right in front of me. Now, the beauty of me setting this up is once I add another access point, as you can see, it's broadcasting on all the access points. So once I add a new one, I don't need to do this again. Once I adopt a new access point, it's going to push the settings to this, and now that's where the intelligence comes in. It just keeps adding and on and on. All right, so as a refresher, just realize that when we add another access point that's going to be in the fellowship hall, all we have to do is plug this in, and boom, there you go. It's going to be assigned to all the access points. Just know, if you really want to be particular, you could come in here and then come in here and set these to specific access points. I can't do that because I only have one. If I had other ones, I can say, hey, I just want this one to be available with this network, and something like that. So you do have some how can I get that word out? You have some choices. Let's just say it that way instead. All right, so we got a lot of that stuff set up. So we got our network set up. We have our Wi-Fi set up, one for guests. Now, there's another setting that they used to have, but it looks like they've hidden it in the way that I used to do, but they did move it to another place. So just imagine when it comes to your internet that you have 100 gallons of water being able to come in. And we talked about this before. You got 100 gallons coming in, and based on how we just set this up right now, it's a first come, first serve. Now, granted, this is a fast router, so you're not going to really hit any real limitations unless somebody's doing, a lot of people are doing some crazy stuff to this. But you have 100 gallons coming in, it's pretty much up for grabs, whoever gets it. Now, one of the other things that I like doing in this is set Wi-Fi speed limits or network limits. So we can come in here, and as you can see, we only have the default group. That means that there's there's no restriction on how much can be downloaded or how much can be uploaded. But we're going to change that because we don't want guests. We want guests to be isolated, but we never want guests to have full access to unlimited speed of what's available for your download and your upload speed. This will segment this out so you never have to worry about an issue of all your guests slowing down the critical equipment. So we'll come in here and create, and this is why we need to test this again once we get their internet speed. We're just going to call this profile guests. I just like making them simple names. And what's going to be the speed limit? Now, granted, my speed is 1,000 down, 1,000 up, so 900, 900. So for me, I would probably set this as, 300 down, but I don't want anybody else. Download bandwidth limit must be at least 100. Okay, I do have that. And then my upload, I would say, I don't want people to really conflict with this, even though I'm kind of an outlier when it comes to this setting, but I would set mine at maybe like 50. Now, I don't know why it's saying my speed is limited like that, but we'll just set it at 100 right now. I'll figure that out. It must be some setting that's changing that. So right now, anybody who's on our default network is going to have unlimited access. They can get as much as available for download and upload speed, but total over all of the guests that are on the guest network, they are limited to a max of 50 megabits per second upload speed total. If you got 200 people on your Wi-Fi, all of them combined cannot use more than 50. So we've segmented out, so we've got a nice little nest egg of speed that no one can interfere with, all right? And you can get a whole lot more granular with this if you wanted to, but for me, that's mainly the settings that I've done and I've been very happy with, all right? Now, the last thing that I like to do is I like to set up everything to get the exact same IP address. So when I bring in the cameras, the joystick, the sound system, the computer that we're going to be building for them, all this other stuff is going to be listed here in the connected clients. Well, actually, let me go back one. Let's go to the Unifi devices. So as you can see, everything is set up now. I like to, it's still going into what I was talking about. I like to segment all my stuff. So when it comes to the Unifi equipment, I like, and remember those ranges of IP addresses? I like to use the IP addresses for the networking equipment from 1, because your router, the Unifi router is number 1 here. That's what is listed here. I like to go from 1 sequentially up to maybe 30. Like I have 30 Unifi devices here. So from 1 to 30 is designated for those devices. So what I'm going to do is come in here, click on the access point. We can give it a name. So this is actually going to be Sanctuary AP. And then I'm also going to set it to a static IP address. And instead of it being at 72, because it's dynamic. It's going to change whenever, if stuff gets shut down. I want it to be the exact same thing every single time. So I'm going to set it at 2, and we need to fill in all the rest of this information now. Subnet mask is 255.0. Don't need to worry about an alternate DNS. I'm just pointing everything back to the router so that it gets those numbers from that. The subnet mask is the only one that's different. Typically it's 255, 255, 255.0. If you do anything other than that, then you know what you're doing. For everybody else, just set it to that and you're fine. All right, we apply that. It's going to change the settings and it's going to update the name here in a second. As you can see, boom, the name has been changed. And that's going to move over. Now, while we're doing that, let me log into the master account. So as you can see, I have a bunch of these set up. So I'm going to go to mine because that's just the one that I know I have the most stuff in. So now if I go to my Unifi devices, and let's go to all of them, as you can see, I've made mine sequentially, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it goes up. Like I said, that's how I do mine. I do have some cameras. I do have some phones, other stuff. I have door access, all of this stuff. I have a digital signage, a bunch of stuff that I just added and it just builds out. But all of the devices that are on my network that function, I do sequentially. So there we go. So now we got our routers. Number 1, our first access point is 2. When we add our next one, it's going to be 3 and ranging up to like 30 devices. I don't think we're going to go that far, but it's possible. Now, with that being said, that is the administration of the devices. We have set an IP address just for that. Now, let me actually do this because I think this is for Creator for Fun who asked a question about this. Let's go back here and say we want to set up another network. Say we want to set up something for, and I'm going to use her example. They have networking equipment and video streaming equipment for a youth ministry. And say you want to set up something different. I've done this at like Signs and Wonders where I installed this. They have a, I don't want to call it a halfway house, but it's kind of like a house that is being rented out to, families. And we separate them so that they have the autonomy of being able to get on the internet, but it's separated from everybody else. But it is managed and owned by the church. So in this example, say we want to set up a new network for the youth ministry or a house that's connected. We're going to set up another network and we'll just call this youth ministry. And call it like that. Or when I set this up at Antioch, they had a learning center and it was it has to be separated for daycare. Legally, it had to be separated as well. So we just did it in here as well. So you can come in here, set a different IP address in here. I'm just going to do 192.168.200. Makes it physically different. We set it up. We still want that to be on the default network so that it will act the same. Let's go in here. Let's make sure all of that is right. We come down here to manual. This is not a guest network. We will have this isolated. So we don't want the kids or whoever in this youth ministry to be able to access anything else. And they can't, this is not going to isolate them from themselves. So if you had a printer or something on this network, it's not going to isolate that way. But if you had a printer on your main, they can't talk to that one. So we got that set up, and these are our IP address ranges. All right, so now we have one more port that's available in here. How do we assign our networks to a different port? So now you have a physical connection as well too. If somebody's plugged into this jack, this is what you're gonna get. So we can come down here to our ports, and every device that has ports are gonna be listed here. So we can come here to our device. And I like to do this because now you can physically click on here. So it's showing right here, what ports do we have available? So we have the computer here and we got this, which I'm wondering why did that list it as 1? Oh, because I did put it in the middle. So 1 and 2 are available. So in here, if you click on one of the ports or multiple, you can come down here and assign what network it's going to be. So for example, say you're using security, let's go back to what we already did. Say you have the youth ministry stuff connected to this, and you would plug them into port number 1, because that one is be available. So if I come in here, change this to the youth ministry, that means anything that's plugged into that port is going to be assigned that. So if I come in here, and we'll just do a quick example just to show you how this works. So if I come in here to my properties, and I have no idea why my screen is acting up like this, but as you can see, my IP address right now is 192.168.1.147 because it is coming from that port. And let me actually do this from the command line because I have no idea why that image is showing up like that. So as you can see, there's our IP address right there, 192.168.1.147. So now if I disconnect this and now connect it to port number 1, that we forced it to only allow that youth ministry connection to. So now that we've connected it, let's force it to get a new IP address. Well, let's release it first. And then we're going to renew it. Now let me make sure I actually plugged into the right one. No, I didn't. I plugged into 4. I was going to say, hold on, that didn't work. I thought this was 1 closest to the internet. It wasn't. So let's do that again. So let's release. Let's renew. Give it a second. And let me turn my Wi-Fi off because that jumped on my regular stuff. But as you can see, our new IP address is now in that range. So if we go back to our menu now that we got our internet connection back, if we go to client view, it says what is the network I'm on. I'm on the youth ministry network that we established, and there's my IP address. Let me get rid of some of these fields, these columns, so we can see it a little bit easier here. And we don't need channel. So as you can see, and let's get rid of activity. So as you can see, now we're on that network. We're not on the 192.168.1. And if you really want to, let's turn that Wi-Fi back on and let's connect to the guest Wi-Fi that we established so we can show both of them at the same time. And I'm trying to remember what I set the password to. All right, so we are connected because it did this little connection to throw me off as a login. I need to actually turn that off. But as you can see, now we're connected. We're connected to our access point on the guest network and on the youth network by physically, and you see we have 2 completely different IP addresses, so we know our stuff works. Now, say we're on the youth connection and I want my computer to always have 147. Just like we did with our hardware devices, we would just click on that device, click on our gear for settings, and we want to check off, we can give it a name, just like we did the access point. I can check off fixed IP address, and I can give it whatever IP address in that range. Actually, let me tell you honestly, you can set this IP address to anything, but you're going to give yourself a pain if you set it to something outside of the network that you're connected to. We're connected to a port that's only going to give out 192.168.200. So if I set it to .2, you can do it, it's not going to work. And it's going to be a pain to try and get in here and undo that. But say we want it to always be, I don't want it to be 147, I want it to be 10. We'll go ahead and apply that. And now I have to refresh what my IP address so I can get that. So we're just gonna renew that one more time, one more again. And now nothing, this router will never assign that IP address to anything other than my computer. So now that's gonna be a static connection. It's always gonna be the same IP address. So we're gonna have to refresh it here. And I should have released it. That's what I should have did. Let's release it first. And let me turn off the Wi-Fi as well too. And there we go. There's our IP address that we set statically. So now it's always going to be that IP address. We need to update, let the page update with our new IP address. Let's refresh it. And there we go. So there's our IP address, and it's set to what we statically picked it to be. So when I set up the PTZ cameras, I'm gonna pick a range. Most likely, since that's that default network is only going to be with media equipment, I'll probably start it with 50. So the joystick will be 50, cameras 1, 2, 3, 4 will be 51, 52, 53, 54. The ATEM will probably be, the video switcher will probably be 60. The mixer will be 61. The computer will probably be 70. So I'm giving it different gaps where I want stuff to be. So the computers will be 70, the cameras will be 50, the kind of the AV equipment, the static stuff like the mixer and the video mixer, video switcher. I couldn't get that out for whatever reason. That'll be 60. So I have them in sections so that I know, hey, if I look at, if for whatever reason, somebody comes back behind me and they're like, what is the IP address of the camera? If they get 1, and it's like, okay, they're doing this sequentially, so the next one should be this. That's at least what I do. I try and help myself and anybody else that comes back behind me. But that's really it, believe it or not. Now I need to undo some of this stuff so I don't mess myself up. So I'm gonna put everything back in default, which means I have to come in here and undo this IP address because now we're not on that network anymore. So we've turned that off. We removed this port only assigning that network. And with all, I mean, truth being told, I don't even need this anymore. So we're gonna delete that completely. And I actually need to go to manage. And then we can completely remove that. So now we're just back to our default and our guest. And in this setup, that's really all that's needed. So you know me, I do kind of long videos to hopefully walk you through every single step that you need. So again, I love the Ubiquiti products in the Unifi line. I think it is a worthwhile enhancement, and it's going to make your networking more robust. You have enterprise grade equipment at consumer prices. It's not going to break the bank, but at the same time, you don't need to spend thousands of dollars to get this stuff. This setup right here that's going to be installed at a church, that's going to give them more than enough Wi-Fi coverage and set them up network for security and all this other stuff. And I ain't even talk about the firewall and all that other stuff set up that's kind of natively built in. But this total package right here was $245. That's going to get you straight. So link is going to be down below. Again, going directly to Unifi store. Yes, they do sell some of the stuff from Amazon, but it's going to be marked up. I'm taking you right to the source and get you exactly what you need. But let me know if you have any other questions. Creative for Fun, I hope that helped you, and anybody else that's asking me about networking stuff. We are going to be holding our 3rd annual e-missionary conference where we might even go through setting up some stuff like this. It all depends on if the students want us to go over stuff like that. But if you are interested And coming out to that conference, folks, registration is now. You can go to 4meconference.com. You can get registered to be on site because we're going to be at Antioch Baptist Church, where we're going to have sessions with speakers live and in person, so you can network with other people. We got some vendors lined up. We got some sponsors lined up. Got some food and fellowship and all that other fun stuff and some learning. But if you're not able to be there and not able to be here in Virginia, we still will have this online. You can get the same experience and talk with everybody online. And you never know, we might have a session where we go through this as well too, and you can ask questions and kind of set this all up to help you out with your ministry. And I hope this really helped. You know, you didn't have to be a IT genius to set this up. I hope that's what you get out of this video. But like I said, if you have any other questions, please leave them down below. I have the same equipment here, so I can answer any questions that you got, because I got the same stuff in a closet over there. Let me see. I know my stuff is messy. Let me see if I can. Oh, still got it on AI tracking, so I can't move the joystick. But my closet is right there. They got all the stuff over here, and I don't know if you can see. I got two Unifi switches right there. So I use the same stuff that we're talking about, and I got a bunch of them up under the table here as well too. But I think I've blabbed enough. I hope that helps, folks. So if you like this type of content, appreciate a like, consider subscribing, hit that bell, that way you get notified when we come out with other videos to help modernize your media ministry. Thanks for watching, folks. This is AJ. Catch you on the next video. Later.